Hello, everybody. Good evening. How are you guys all doing this evening? I am doing okay. The weather is super nice over here in Southern California. I'm sorry for you guys in the Midwest and back east where it may not be so nice, but out here we're having nice 60, 65 degree days, so it is very nice. Um, we should be able, you guys should see me okay inside the chat. I see a few people saying they can't, but I should be on there. Okay, cool. Right on. Let me know if y'all got everything in there. Should be coming through nice and good. Cool. Right on. Okay. I keep making all these mistakes on this and hope that I can get it right one day. So cool. I was watching just before the someone in my YouTube comments today had mentioned something that made me search out Super Dave Osborne on YouTube, and then I've been caught in like a Super Dave Osborne loop all day long. For you young guys, you may not know who he was, but he's a comedian that used to do a lot of late night, way before my time. But I always thought his comedy was just funny because it's not meant to be serious. It's meant to be so stupid you don't have to think about it, and it's just silly stuff. But yeah, I just got caught in a loop where I couldn't stop watching his stuff. That and his little sidekick Fuji. Just yeah, I could not stop on that. So right on, cool. I'm glad you guys can see me okay. So so I wanted to start out by addressing a question that came up in the chat, or actually, yeah, it came up in the chat earlier. So I thought it was a really important one. It's Joe G. I know he's in here somewhere, and he asked what he can do to stand out. He's applying for an apprenticeship, is the way I understood it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he wanted to know what he could do to stand out in his application process. So I'm going to kind of address this in a broad way and talk about anybody that's applying for a job. Okay. As a business owner, I'm going to go over some honest things that really make a person stand out to me. Okay. When they're putting an application in, you may not agree with these. Okay. But I'm just telling you as a business owner, what honestly stands out the most. I'm not necessarily saying this is how the things I base my hiring off of, because some of these things might sound a little strange. Okay. But it's the things that make it the easiest for me to evaluate a person and find out if they're a good fit. Okay. Obviously technical skills, but let's step back from the technical skills and let's talk about an apprentice, someone who wants to come into this trade. Okay. One of the things that I have always pointed out, about people. So this may not apply to you, Joe G. Okay. Sorry if is that your name? By the way, tell me what your name is. It just, your screen thing shows up as Joe G. So, the first thing is let's say an apprentice comes knocking on my door. He sends me, most of the time I get an email from one of them. Okay. And they send me an email and they say, hey, I'm looking for a job. A local teacher turned them on to me or something like that. Okay. The first thing that really, really helps is, if as a business owner, it helps me to remember people and for someone to stand out if they somehow have a photo attached inside of the email, okay, and or with their resume. I know that sounds silly, but it helps me to remember that person, because you got to remember, I'm getting so many resumes a day. Not a day. I'm not that popular, but I mean a month. Let's just say that. I probably get 10 to 15 resumes a month, okay? And I'm not necessarily always hiring, but if I see a resume that stands out, I'm going to pass it on to my friends or whatnot, okay? But something that really makes you stand out is if there's a photo attached to that resume, okay? I'm going to tell you something that nobody has ever done and would really make that person stand out is a link to your social media, okay? If you had a link to your social media, then I could put a name to the face, okay? And maybe not necessarily for me, but there's a lot of companies out there. We don't do this, but I've heard of a lot of corporate companies that make you actually unlock your social media so they can look at it. Obviously, that's not something that we are going to do as a service company, but I'm just telling you guys, honestly, what's going to make you stand out the most. Okay. Businesses, they want to hire people that are trustworthy, that are honest, and they don't want to have to guess whether or not you're going to be a good person. Okay. Again, I know this sounds super controversial, guys, but I was just reading an article about this and it really makes sense. Okay. A visual aid, a picture of you, and then a link to your social media, that's going to make you stand out above everybody, because everybody else, not everybody else, but a lot of people are afraid what's in their social media. They want to hide that because Maybe they don't have the best character or whatnot. Okay. Um, this is definitely something I don't know the legalities of it. I can't require this as a company because this, there could be like discrimination things and stuff like that. But if you voluntarily provide a link to your social media to a potential employer, it's definitely going to make you stand out. Okay. That's a major one up. Okay. Obviously, once you submit a resume and you go in for like the first interview, walk in the door with a DMV printout. Okay. Even if they don't ask it for you, walk in the door with a DMV printout. Okay. And flat out tell them right up in the beginning, you can drug test me at any given time. Okay. And you better be honest about that because they might call you on it. I'm going to be honest with you. Most companies probably won't drug test you, but the fact that it's understood that you need to be able to pass a drug test is a big thing. Okay. So walking in the door, having a visual aid with your resume, a picture, and maybe a link to your social media, a Facebook page or whatnot. Okay. Go ahead and walk in the door with a clean DMV printout. Okay. Be totally open to a drug test. Okay. Because that's a big thing that's going to make you stand apart. Just being honest. Okay. I've had people, like I heard a guy that had a DUI. Okay. Now it was still on his record. He was a great mechanic, and I'll get to the question here in just a second. Oh, okay. Zach, you asked, are you advertising for employees or is it YouTube viewers? I advertise, like I just hired someone as a part-time employee, but I didn't necessarily advertise on YouTube. I have before. I've just said it, I'm looking for technicians. I really didn't hire from that bunch, but I did get a lot of resumes. But still to this day, even without saying I'm hiring, I still get people emailing me asking me if I am hiring. Okay. So I will, entertain resumes if someone wants to send them to me. But the most recent candidate that I hired, it's from the local community college, and the teacher, the instructor who's also in my RSCS chapter recommended that this person come over to me, and we went ahead and hired him. He was a good hire. Okay. So, but back to the story I was saying. So I once hired a guy that had a DUI. Okay. It was almost, I think he had like 4 months of it left on his record before it disappeared. Okay. And that technician, this was a long time ago, but that technician was such a mechanic. He had no refrigeration experience, but he came from the construction side, and he was a very mechanically inclined person. And he had some really good references, people that we personally knew. And we as a company felt that it was worth it for us to go ahead and hire that guy, even though he had a DUI, because, he was just something we couldn't pass up. Okay. And we as a company had to pay, our insurance policies were a little bit more to hire him, and, different stuff like that. But it was because he was honest. Okay. Be honest up front. That's a huge thing. Okay. Being honest. Be humble. Okay. I always say that all the time. Just be humble. Be totally willing to admit the fact that you don't know everything and that you're willing to learn. Okay. I try to say that to everybody every day. I do not know everything, okay? I know a little bit about a few things, and I try to share that with you guys, but just be a humble person all around in general. Being humble is really going to help you guys, okay? So those are some interesting things. I don't know how much that's going to apply to you, but really, I mean, those are some serious things, okay? Give them a visual aid, provide a link to your social media, be open. Let them lurk your social media page, okay? Let them look around and see, okay, yeah, this is person that I want to hire, okay? I'm going to be honest with you. We're in the construction trades. We realize that you're not going to be an angel, okay? We realize that we're mechanics. We realize that you do stupid stuff. I don't care if someone smokes pot. Hell, it's legal here in California, okay? But they can't smoke on the job. And, it does skirt the line of being able to pass a drug test. But it's just one of those things. What you do on your personal time, doesn't really affect me. Now, always be cautious about your company's policies. I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but, if you drink when you go home at nighttime, as long as you're not bringing it to work and it's not leading to problems, I don't care. I can't control that anyways. But, so we know in our trade that we're not going to hire saints. This is just, nobody's perfect. So those are a couple things that I think can make you stand out. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. But I definitely think being honest with the social media and a picture of yourself, that's going to set you apart from everybody else. Because just think, most people are afraid to be honest. Most people want to hide stuff, and then their employers find it, and then it creates a problem. So just be upfront. This is what I got. Look at the, I mean, let's be honest, dude. When you go in, when you go to a trade school or whatever, look at all the other people in the trade school. Okay. They're just the same as you. They all make mistakes. They all do. I mean, so everybody's got an equal chance. So long as you're willing to learn and you're mechanically inclined, you'll do well in this trade. Okay. So another thing, and I'll get to a couple questions in here. Which is worse, a dope head or an alcoholic? Had them both, and that's not. Neither one of them is good. The alcoholics are scary. I mean, they're both scary. The alcoholics are scary, especially the functioning ones. Especially, I've never found someone drinking, but we found people with drugs, and we've helped them. We probably went a little too far helping them, putting them through rehab. There's a lot of as a business, you have to be cautious about that kind of stuff because, especially here in California with lawsuits and different things, and alcohol abuse and drug abuse, some people consider it to be a disease, and not saying it's not saying it is. Okay, I'm just saying some people, medical people do consider it to be a disease. So therefore, do you skirt the line if you fire someone for being an alcoholic? That's a discrimination thing right there. So you have to be cautious about that kind of stuff. So, we had a person many, many years ago that we suspected had a drug problem. We confronted him. He said no. He was pretty good for a while. And then we kind of really had a strong feeling that he had a drug issue. We put him through rehab. And he came out of rehab, was good for a little while, and then he disappeared with our van for like 2 weeks. We couldn't find him. So, and then when he came out of his bender after the 2 weeks, we didn't have to let him go. He actually called us and said, I made a mistake. I'm going to bring the van to you. I really can't work with you guys anymore. And he just dropped off his van. So cross our fingers. That was the best case scenario. Nobody got hurt, but that's a scary thing. Okay. So, and you wonder why, companies these days have to have GPS enabled vehicles and different things like that, because I've got a $10,000 vehicle. Well, I've got actually probably like a $50,000 vehicle rolling down the street. The van probably costs 20, 30 grand, and it's probably got 10, 15 grand worth of materials in it. So, I've got a giant investment rolling down the street, and when I can't hear from that person, even for an hour, it's a problem. So that's why people have to have GPS and different things on their vans, because we have to be able to find them, So going off on a tangent there, we could go off on hours, because I know a lot of people don't agree with GPS and whatnot, but it's the future. Just get used to it. Okay, so we'll get to some questions in the chat here in a minute. Do want to address, let me check to see if I missed anything out here. Okay, cool. I already got that one. Okay, do want to address another question that I had in the YouTube comments today. Someone asked me why they see more defrost clocks on a walk-in freezer versus defrost clocks on a walk-in cooler. Now, there's a lot of problems with that question, but this particular person wanted to know why he saw more defrost clocks on a walk-in freezer. Okay, so let's go back to basics, okay? In order for us to change a box temperature, we have to have heat transfer, right? In order to have heat transferring from one medium to another, so from the box air, the ambient or the air inside the box, to the refrigeration lines, we have to have a temperature difference in those two, right? So if we have a 30-degree box, that refrigeration line has to be at least a degree below that, okay, for it to get some kind of heat transfer, okay? Now, for it to get an effective amount of heat transfer, we have to have that temperature, or that TD, if we want to call it, okay, to be a lot lower. So on a walk-in cooler, and let's summarize, the TD is the evaporator temperature, so the temperature inside the evaporator coil, okay, compared to the space temperature or the air temperature or whatever medium is being transferred or is transferring the heat from. I guess you guys should understand that. Hopefully my wording there makes sense. So on a walk-in cooler, typically, okay, and this is a rule of thumb, it could change a little bit, but typically your evaporator TD is going to be 10 to 15 degrees. Therefore, the evaporator is going to be 10 to 15 degrees below the box temperature. Okay, makes sense? So typical walk-in cooler, depending on what you're storing in it, might be, let's just say like a beer walk-in, or a beverage cooler, they might run it at 40 degrees, okay? If they run a beer cooler at 40 degrees, all right, our evaporator temperature is at least going to be 10 degrees below that for it to have effective heat transfer, okay? So That means our evaporator is going to be 30 degrees. Well, 30 degrees is below freezing, right? Okay, so now let's think about when we have a walk-in cooler that we maintain at like 35 degrees. Okay, that evaporator temperature internally is going to be about 25 degrees. Okay, and that's just assuming a 10-degree TD. So that's why we have to have defrost on a walk-in cooler. All right, now there is some older systems out there that did not have defrost built in, and there's different methods that we could do that. Okay, I'm not going to get too crazy into that right now. But for the most part, nowadays, we maintain a much lower temperature, okay? Before they changed the health standards to 41 degrees, you had to have your product temperature, I think it was 45 degrees, if I remember right. It was before my time, but I think I remember some of the stuff you had to have it at 45. So therefore, you could run, if you were maintaining 45 degrees in your walk-in, then your evaporator would be 35 degrees, then it would be not, it wouldn't be under freezing, okay? So on a walk-in freezer, if they're going to be storing ice cream in there, just general product and ice cream, for the most part, it's going to maintain about negative 10 degrees. If it's going to maintain about negative 10 degrees, okay, then your evaporator is probably going to be 10 degrees colder than that. So we might be at negative 20 degrees, okay? So that's why we have to have defrost. Now, on a walk-in freezer, we're going to have a much more elaborate defrost, whether it be electronic or hot gas. You're going to have all kinds of sensors inside there, so it's a much more elaborate defrost system on a walk-in freezer. On a walk-in cooler, most of the time, we can get away with an air defrost. So that's where they're going to run the fans the whole time, and they're just going to shut off the compressor. That would be like an off-cycle defrost, okay? That's going to be a typical one on a walk-in system, okay? I'm going to look over here at the chat so I don't get too far behind and see if I miss anything major. So I'm going to just kind of scroll up in here. Okay, cool. Ryan Tanner, you asked pricing advice for new business owner, flat rate compared to time and materials. Ryan, I'm in the commercial side, so time and materials is the only thing that works for us. Okay, flat rate is not an easy sell on the commercial side because most, and especially in the restaurants, they won't go for flat rate at all. So I can definitely understand the need for flat rate when you're dealing with a residential thing, because it's been proven that most people want to know how much something's going to cost before they get into it. They like to be able to not have that variable of time and material kind of a rate. Now, I personally would have a hard time with that as a business owner because I've always been a time and materials person. And if you're an honest company, time and materials is better in my opinion, okay? Even on a residential side, in my opinion. But, again, you'd want to talk to someone that deals with some more residential stuff. Highly, highly suggest you guys check out Tersh Blissett's podcast, the HVAC Business Mastery. Did I get that wrong? It's on the Blue Collar Roots Network with Brian Orr. Service Business Mastery. There we go. Bam. Sorry, Tersh. But yeah, Service Business Mastery. Tersh covers a lot of these topics on his podcast, and I think it's a great thing for you guys if you want to know more about business ownership and stuff, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and keep on going down here. DJ Sub Air, you said clean and dressed. Yeah, but for HVAC, don't go in a suit and tie. I mean, unless you're going to work for some big corporate company, just going in some blue jeans and a nice t-shirt. That's the perfect attire for me because, or like work clothes. Come in work boots, blue jeans, and a t-shirt. And I'm going to be honest with you, with me, so the way that I do my interview process is, I don't know how other people do it, but this is how we do it. So you come in for an initial interview, and depending on the time and stuff, sometimes I might ask that person, like I had one guy. So let me step back. So you come in for an initial interview, and then if everything goes good in the interview, then we schedule a time for the person to do a ride along. Okay. Then we do a ride along with the person. They ride with me for a day. They work with me for a day. A day is not enough to find out everything about the person, but it gives me the gist of they know how to operate. They can climb a ladder without freaking out. They can, do that kind of stuff. So there has been times when on the first interview, with one guy, it worked out perfect where he came and did the ride along that same day. I mean, the interview went great. He was the perfect candidate. We shook his hands and said, hey, how'd you like to do the ride along? And, we asked him when it was convenient, and he said now. And I said, let's do it. And so we went and did a ride along. We went and ran some calls. So that's why I say for me, but again, I'm not saying for everybody, but I mean, for my business, come in some work boots, some blue jeans and a t-shirt, and, because that's how we roll. We don't need to be all fancy. I don't need you in a suit and tie. Doesn't mean too much to me. So I don't even own a suit and tie myself, so I can't expect other people to come in a suit and tie. So, okay, keep on going down here. Yeah, hiring someone with marital problems is not good, but I'm not going to discriminate on that. Okay. Hiring someone with marital problems leads to a lot of issues, but again, there's nothing we can do to prevent that kind of stuff. So keep on going down here. I'm just reading down, trying to catch up on this. So yeah, that's the interesting thing. Sorry, I'm just getting to your comment here, Zach, where you said you would fire them. You hate for that to be against their rights. That's the thing is I just have to be cautious. You just never know with these lawsuits these days. So got to be cautious about that stuff. So, okay, going to keep on going down here. Yeah. Okay. Just reading down through here, seeing what you guys are saying. Okay. I'm back down in the bottom of the chat again here. So, yeah, there's no need to have a suit. Yeah, kiss ass and match your clothing to the owners. Yeah, that's funny, Superior. So, okay. Guys, if I missed anything major, nasty that. You said you posted a question about cold plate evaporators, and I'm wondering if they use static coils. If not, okay. So, the video that I posted today, I'll go ahead and address this question right now. So the video that I posted today was a Hvacr reach-in that had a cold rail on the top. Okay. Now there's two different types of cold rails. There's a static cold rail. Okay. And a static cold rail has no air moving across as a heat transfer source. Okay. They simply just put the pans up against the cold rail and the heat transfers. Okay. There's no air movement across there. The reach-in that I showed actually does have a cooling fan, and it has a typical evaporator, but on top of that, so basically below the cold rail, down in the bottom, right in the center, there's a 4 or a 6-inch fan. And underneath that is refrigeration lines serpentine back and forth in a cavity that's about 2.5 inches tall. That cavity has a drain in it too. Okay. Then those refrigeration lines, after they serpentine through that cavity, come up and go around the rail, and then they go through the center of the rails. So that way, when they stack the pans, there's cold around the edges of each pan, and then there's air moving up underneath it. Okay, so that's the older Hvacr design, was they used a fan motor inside that. Okay, so that is not a static cold rail. Now, if you go work on like a Delfield refrigerator, they run static cold rails up on the top where there's no fan circulating the air. Okay, and the refrigeration lines are basically held up against the stainless steel metal, around the pan, and then the pans just sit down and they touch the edges, and then the heat transfers via that way. Okay, so it just depends on the reach-in you're working on. Some of the older Randell ones, you had static cold rails. The static cold rail is a very popular one. So did I answer your question there? I can't remember if that was all your question. I'm going to go back up into here. Let's go up into here. Austin, you said instead of cooling an evaporator, it cools a heat exchanger. Okay, so that's on the newer Hvacrs. The video that I showed today was an older Hvacr, but you are correct, Austin. The newer Hvacrs, the blue units, yes, those do have a glycol fluid inside the heat exchange, or inside the reach-in, and then the heat exchanger basically, cools the glycol. So that's on the newer ones. But the one that I showed was an old school Hvacr. So go down here and see what I missed in here, okay? Is a veto bag required? Yeah, Ryan, you got to have a veto tech pack, and you got to have the veto MB. I need to see a lineup of tool bags before I hire you. Okay. Nah. All right. Okay. Keep going on here. All right. Let's put this right here. There we go. All right. I just made you a moderator, Zach, if you want to help out with that. I don't know if that's what you were asking me. I just saw your comment there. So, okay. So the Indie Iceman, you said, will a Hoshizaki headmaster maintain the head pressure during harvest too? Yes. Yeah. That's the purpose of having a headmaster on a remote ice machine. Okay. Is because of hot gas defrost, we need to have that high discharge temperature when we're using it during defrost. So yes, the headmaster will maintain the head pressure, but I will say that you won't necessarily see. Sorry, I'm getting a. Why am I getting that? Oh, okay. You won't necessarily see the head pressure stay exactly at the headmaster settings. Okay. Essentially, the number stamped on the side of the headmaster, I don't know what it is on a Hoshi, I can't remember, but let's just say it's an old school headmaster of 180 psi. Just because you see a headmaster on there that's stamped 180 psi does not mean that the head pressure will at least be 180 psi. All that means is that the headmaster will start to bypass at 180 psi. Okay, if forbid you had problems, you know, or if it was like so extremely cold, your head pressure might drop below the 180 psi. So you can't necessarily diagnose a headmaster just because the head pressure went under the stamped number on the side of the headmaster. Okay, I hope that that's what you were asking there, and hopefully I get to that one there. Right. Let's go here. Am I missing something here? If I'm missing your guys' questions. Okay. Let's go in here. Okay. Thoughts on high-end work boots. Dino, it's totally up to you, dude. You know, I buy higher end work boots. I run with Timberland Pros. I've always had that. I consider those higher end. They're not Red Wing expensive, but I mean, I guess they're $200 still. So, I run with Timberland Pros, and then I have Red Wings for my personal boots, like the slip-on cowboy boot style work boot things that I use for personals. But the Timberland Pro lace-up ones are the ones that I use for my work boots. And I believe in buying a higher end like a Timberland because the cheap Walmart ones, they don't last worth a crud. And the slip resistance on them is junk. Also, remember, don't let me tell you that anything that says slip resistant on it just means it's resistant. It doesn't mean that it's going to be slip proof. Okay. Especially for the new guys that are just getting involved, if you're going to be doing kitchen work, you have to learn how to walk flat footed. And you have to learn how to walk cautiously. You can't take a corner on your toes because you're going to fall on your ass. Okay. So when you're walking through a restaurant, you have to learn how to keep your feet flat, and you have to learn how to balance yourself. Another thing too, if you're working in a restaurant in a greasy kitchen and you start to slip, just let it happen. You're going to hurt yourself more by trying to prevent the fall. You're going to end up throwing your back out. That's just something that I've learned. Okay. God forbid I'm going to fall, but if I am going to fall, just let it happen. I mean, the only thing I would freak out about not falling is if you're falling into the fryers or something. I'm going to do everything I can to stay away from that. But if I'm just on the floor, just let it happen, dude. It's much better to fall on your ass and just plop down than to your body tense up and cringe and contort in weird ways. You're going to throw your back out and you're going to feel like crap for 3 days. Okay. So, okay, so Junior, you said, what would you think about coming to an interview with your tools? Overkill? Yeah. Overkills. Yeah, I don't need to see your tools coming into an interview. Okay, this is me personally. Okay, I run a small business. That's just how I roll. I don't care if you have your tools in the interview. All right, I don't need to see them. That's not something. I mean, you can mention that you already have your hand tools or whatnot. But you know, another thing, Junior, to say too. Brian Cobes, you said, will I do a review on the Field Piece Job Link probes? Yeah, I will. I'll work on that. I have them. I've had them forever. So they're used in a lot of my videos. So if you just go back and review a lot of my videos, I use the Field Piece Job Link pros with the Measure Quick and all that fancy stuff. So I use them all the time. But Junior, so coming to an interview, you know, with my tools, nah, no needed, dude. Just come in and be honest, present yourself, do the things. For those of you guys that are just coming in here that didn't see the beginning part of this, I covered a question that Joe G had asked, how to stand out in an interview, okay? An interview in general. Now, these aren't necessarily things that you have to do, and these aren't necessarily things that I will not hire or hire someone over, but I'm just being honest. These are some things. The biggest thing, when you send in a resume, send a photo of yourself, okay? That's going to make you stand out amongst everybody else, because then I have a picture and I can put a name to the face, okay? The next thing, send me a link to your social media. Send me a link to your social media, shows me that you're honest and not hiding anything, okay? And be honest, okay? You don't have to be a squeaky clean, perfect person, okay? That's not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking, or if I was to go over that kind of stuff, I would just be looking to make sure that you are who you say you are, okay? You know, walk in with a DMV printout showing that you have a clean driving record. Be honest, be upfront about any legal problems. I mentioned before that I've hired someone with a DUI before. They turned out to be one of my best employees ever. Okay. He doesn't work for me anymore, but no hard feelings. He went to work somewhere else, but he worked for us for a very long time and he was a great employee. And I hired him at my expense, meaning that he had a DUI still on his record. He had a couple months before it cleared, and I had to pay, or we had to pay higher insurance rates for him to be able to hire him. Okay. So just be honest and upfront. Those are the things that I think are going to help you guys as new people. Okay. So, and then be humble and be honest. Those are the other things. Okay. Keep going down in here, seeing what I'm missing. You want to see the new S-Mans, Matt? Yeah. I've got them in videos. So yeah, but I'll do something with those one of these days. There you go, Ryan. Show up sober, 15 minutes early, and ready to share knowledge. Ryan Leary brings up a really good point. So me, I'm an early person. Okay. I start to panic if I'm late for anything. So let's say tomorrow morning, actually, this is truth. Tomorrow morning, I've got a Delfield service training class where I have to go because I do a bunch of warranty work and stuff. So I've got to go to a Delfield service training class in the city of Torrance at 8 a.m. I live in Riverside. That's 2 hours in traffic. Okay. To be honest with you, this is going to sound stupid. I'm going to give myself 3 hours to get there. I'm a freaky early person. Okay. I would rather go sit in a crappy coffee shop and close my eyes for a half an hour than be late somewhere. So when employees show up early places with me, that's a big one up, big time. So showing up early, that's a great thing. Okay. Because I start to worry when employees are just skating right in at the last minute when we have a scheduled crane lift or I've scheduled to have a manager. These are just things that I have to go through. Okay. I have to schedule for restaurants to be there on time. So, or I have to schedule a restaurant to be there early. My guy better show up early because that manager got up an extra half an hour early to show up on time. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that kind of stuff. All right. Yeah. Invading social media is an invasion of privacy. I don't use it to hire. It's illegal to use social media to hire. I'm just saying I've never asked that of someone. I'm just saying I read an interesting article where a lot of big fancy like tech companies and stuff are requiring access to social media. And whether or not we think it's good or bad, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if you're going to stand out from everybody else, send a link to your social media. That's how you can stand out. Now, I could not require that in the state of California. Heck no. I would be done for if I required someone to give me their social media. But if someone voluntarily sent it to me, that's a one up over the next guy, for sure. So definitely anything you can do to something that you can do that nobody else is doing to make yourself stand out, go for it. So send that photo of yourself. If you sent a social media link, if your references, I don't know. There's a lot of good different stuff in there. So, but yeah, walking in with your DMV handout's a big one too. Showing up early. Those are some big ones. So, yeah, send a picture of Zach. Definitely. So, okay. Keep going down in here. Seeing what I'm missing here. Yeah. SoCal traffic is the worst. Hey, Andrew, how you doing, bud? Okay. Yeah, we had to pay a bunch more, Sean. But granted, that tech, the DUI was going to clear like in less than a year. So he was on the tail end of it. Doesn't it take like a bunch of years for a DUI to clear or something? So, I mean, he was on the tail end of it. I think he only had like 8 months until his DUI cleared or something like that. So, yeah. And, yeah. All right. So, no, I've never gotten sick from my job. I've been scared of getting sick from my job, though. Used to work for a hospital, a big, giant, fancy hospital chain. And the second time they sent me out to do a preventative maintenance on an exhaust fan, I got some more story from these people. And the first time they sent me out, I really didn't think too much about it. They said, go out to this location that was like 50 miles away from the hospital. It was like a satellite location. And they said, we need you to PM this exhaust fan. So I said, okay, I went out there. And I really didn't think too much. And they told me it was for the oncology department. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, no problem. And I really wasn't thinking when they said oncology. So then I went out and did the PM, changed the belt. I noticed too that the belts, like they told me they have to change belts on this exhaust fan every month. And I was like, that's kind of strange. So I was like, I in my head, as I was driving out there, I was thinking, I wasn't thinking about what I was working on, okay? But I was thinking, I'm going to fix this problem. It probably needs a new pulley or something like that. So I get out there, and sure enough, the belt's all cracked in weird places, and it just looked like it was completely worn down. And so I adjusted some pulleys, and I was like, yeah, I fixed it. Well, the next month they called me out to go do it again, and the belt was all cracked up again. And I'm like, what the heck? I never understood what was going on with that, Then I put two and two together that I was working on the chemotherapy hood. And then it was kind of like, oh, that seems safe. And granted, I talked to the person downstairs, and they're like, oh yeah, it goes through these HEPA filters. There's nothing bad that comes out of the exhaust fan. Baloney, because they have to change that belt every month. Something's going on there. There's something coming out that exhaust fan. I don't care how many filters you ran it through. So I've never gotten sick per se, but I've worked in some weird things that made me get the heebie-jeebies. When I worked at a county health clinic on the refrigerator that they kept the swine flu vaccinations in, that one freaked me out. And the refrigerator wasn't working, and it was just like all warm and stinky in there. I was like, what am I working on? That scared the crap out of me. Just thinking like I was going to catch some weird disease or something like that, Working in the morgue coolers. I mean, I'm not worried about the dead people, but just thinking like what they died of, and is it airborne, And when I went to go work on the morgue cooler, it's all stinky and warm in there. And it's like, what am I breathing in? That stuff kind of freaks me out. Or you go to clean the evaporator on the morgue cooler, and there's this like green oozy stuff in the drain pan, and you're like, what is that? That stuff just, never gotten sick, but it just gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about that stuff. So, formaldehyde. I don't think they'd been embalmed yet, Jeff, but, definitely some weird stuff, dude. So maybe they had. Well, yeah, I guess no, they probably were embalmed, right? Oh, wait, do they? No, I don't think the hospital does the embalming. I think that the funeral home does the embalming, right? So from the hospital, I think they have all their bodily fluids still. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm not super smart with that stuff. I don't know what it was, Andrew, that was causing the belts to crack that much, dude. It just freaked me out thinking that I was working on the chemotherapy hood, So I don't know. It's probably all in my head, and it was probably nothing. It was out in a hot, dry condition out in the desert, so maybe that's just what was cracking the belts, was just the high heat and the dry air. So, okay, keep going down in here. All right, funeral home. My company, one of our other techs used to go work at a funeral home. I never went to the funeral home. I was always kind of interested, but from what the tech described it to me as, it was like a dirty funeral home, and like everything was like shady in there, and electrical, like he sent me pictures sometimes, and like all the electrical was like really janky, and just, someone was doing it as a side job. When I worked at the morgue at the hospital, that was real chill and real easy. Actually, working in the morgue was kind of cool. There was this one time I had to, so my policy was there couldn't be any bodies in the cooler when I worked on it. Okay. We're talking a 4-passenger morgue cooler. So it's got 8 doors on it, 2 on each side, and they could pull the carts, like you see in the movies, out of it. Okay. But you can pull them out both sides. And it would have just like a really long evaporator coil up above the bodies. So there's no way for me to safely work on the cooler with bodies in there, because I'd be standing on top of the bodies to try to get to the evaporator. That don't make sense, right? So there's this one time they called me and they said, my morgue cooler's down. It's like 4 a.m. And I said, okay, is it loaded? And he goes, yeah, it's got 4 passengers in it. Well, it's only 4-passenger cooler, so that means it's loaded full. And I go, dude, I can't work on that thing with bodies in it. And the hospital maintenance guy asked me, well, what do you want me to do with the bodies? And I go, I don't care. They just can't be in the cooler when I get there. Not my problem where they go. So, okay, he was all irritated. I'll figure it out, And so then I go over there, and yeah, they had all the bodies out. They weren't in the room or anything. I have no idea where they put them. I always laughed about that one. I could just imagine the poor little kitchen ladies in the walk-in cooler with freaking 4 bodies in there or something. I have no idea where they put these bodies, but I worked on it, and, problem solved. There was another time, I have some cool stories about the morgue coolers, but there was another time that, I got out there, they asked me to work on it, and it was full of bodies. And so it wasn't like someone could just pull the bodies out. They have like a chain of command and procedures they have to follow in the hospital. So they would have to send down orderlies, and the orderlies would have to come down with security, and then they'd have to check toe tags, make sure that the bodies were being moved properly, all that fancy stuff. So there's this one time the orderly came down, and there always had to be 2 or 3 orderlies. Well, there was only 1 orderly, and he's like, dude, the other one's on break. It's not going to be here for a half an hour, and I didn't have time to wait. So I was like, well, can I help? And he goes, yeah. So we got to use this cool little like crane, got to hook up the body, lift it out in the bag or whatever. So I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's on a tray, lift out the thing, set it on the gurney, and then I got to help him move it around. That was pretty cool being able to do that. The worst thing though, the worst memory I have working on the morgue cooler was when we opened it up, and, you know, just out of curiosity, I'd never open the bags because that's completely wrong and you can't do that. Okay, you'll get your ass fired for that one. But when I went in there and there's a bag with a name on it and the bag was no bigger than 2 feet, that one hit me hard. Like, and I mean, the bag was only 2 feet long, so that meant there was a baby in it. And that one just like, damn, that, you know, as many times as I worked on those coolers, it didn't bother me because it was usually just people, you know, but when you saw a little baby in a bag, that one just, yeah, messed with me. That one sucked. I never really felt anything bad except for when I saw that one, and that one was just kind of iffy. There's another one too. I'm going off on a tangent on the morgue cooler. I had a apprentice that was new hire, and it was probably one of the first like weeks that he worked with me, and we got an emergency service call at 4 a.m. about a morgue cooler. Actually, no, a previous day we had a call at the morgue. Went out there. They had 2 bad evaporator fan motors, and it only had 4 total. And the other 2 were just as old. So because this customer is very proactive, they were like, change all 4 motors. Okay, cool. So we went ahead and picked up the motors. We changed them. Flash forward to 4 a.m. that night. Okay, the next morning, I should say. I got an emergency service call. There's a burning smell in the morgue, and we need you out here now. We had just worked on it the previous day. So I'm driving there. I don't know what happened. And as I'm driving there, I called the apprentice that was working with me, picked him up, and we drove out there. And as I'm driving there, I'm thinking, you know what? I already knew what was wrong. I let the apprentice change the motors. It was not his fault. It was my fault. But I handed him the wrong voltage motors. I handed him 115 volt motors when it was a 208 volt system. It was my bad. He knew nothing better than that. He changed the motors. He did his job. The burning smell was all 4 motors were burnt up. So at 4 a.m, I had to open up a supply house to find the right motors. We put them in there. That morgue cooler smelt, no joke, for like a year and a half straight, like an electrical burn inside of it. I'm surprised they didn't get mad at me. That was my bad because we put 4 of the wrong motors in there and I didn't check them. So, all right, enough talking about the morgue stuff. Let's go into here. You don't think you could even work with in an empty morgue? Oh, you mean by yourself? You don't think you could work in there? I had no problem working in the morgue. I wanted to get off this topic, but I had no problem working in the morgue by myself, but I would always make it known that I was in there. So if I heard someone coming, I'd like make noises to let them know so they didn't turn the corner and shit their pants thinking that there was something in there or whatever. So I would always make noises to let the person know just to be nice. Part of my French there. So, okay. Yeah, I know there's too many questions. I can't expect Zach. He didn't ask to be a moderator. I just made him a moderator. I'll get to him. Okay. Let's go back up and answer some real questions. Okay, so I see Superior said, that is a good question, Sean. What question did Sean ask? Okay. Oh, you're talking about body parts. What is the BTU load of a dead body? That is a really good question, Sean. I would imagine you would consider it if you, let's say this is going to be kind of morbid, but let's say you're going to do a load calc on a walk-in, like a full walk-in cooler that stores bodies. Okay. You're basically going to do the load calc as if it was beef, as if it was like steaks. Okay. I know you guys are probably rolling in your chairs right now, but you know, obviously it's going to be a massive amount of meat. Okay. Sorry. I'm making myself laugh right now, but if I was going to say I was going to do a load calc, I'd probably do it as like beefs or steaks or whatever. Sorry, I'm making myself laugh, but yeah. So, oh man. All right. Let me go back up in here. Yeah, it is the living you have to fear. Forget the walk and put the body in the ice machine bins. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, but maintenance mechanic. I work with that hoarder's knowledge and don't like to teach. Okay, right on. But thanks, Junior. I really appreciate it, man. Okay. Get back up into here. I don't mean to blast you guys with this Nightbot notification about the Patreon supporters. I just do want to address this. I do have some Patreon supporters. None of you guys need to do that. It's these people chose to do it on their own. I really don't even push the Patreon stuff, but some people chose to do it on their own, and I do want to acknowledge and say thank you guys very much. Okay, but I do not do this for the money. I've always started out doing this for my employees and it just turned into what it's doing. Okay. But I do really appreciate anybody that has contributed or can, whatever. It's all good. Okay. Something that I want to go to real quick. I'll get to some more questions, but I want to go ahead. I'm not going to do this every stream, but I do want to get rid of a bunch of stuff, a bunch of giveaway stuff that I have in the back. Okay, guys. So I'm just going to do a bunch of giveaways right now. Don't expect this every time, because after I give away this stuff, this is the end of my stock, but I just want to go ahead and give this away. It's just hats and different things. So the first name that I draw, I'm just going to tell you what it's for. Okay. You might have a few options here. What I'm going to have you do is, if you win, I'm just going to do a Nightbot random draw right now. If you win, send me an email and we'll talk about the prizes, okay? But I will just let you guys know I've got a set of the field piece clamps, not the wireless ones. Don't get that excited, okay? I just happen to have a set of these and I have no use for them, so I was going to give them away. They're still in the box, brand new. These are the ones, the wired K-type thermocouple clamps, okay? I've got a set of those. I've got a bunch of Sporlan hats, couple Sporlan t-shirts, some Manitowoc Ice Machine hats, a Manitowoc windbreaker. So I'll deal with the people that win and we'll take that. Okay, so I'm just gonna pop the names up right now and let Nightbot choose a random person. So let's just go right now. Bill Burnett, you're one of the winners. Just go ahead and email me at hvacrvideos@gmail.com. You got 24 hours to email me from this point, okay? And we'll talk about the prize inside the thing, okay? So I'm just going to pick off 6 people right now, and then we'll discuss the prize in the thing. You guys can choose and different things, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and roll another one. dhard01, you're number 2. So you got to send me an email, okay, guys? Yeah, you're to make you guys eligible, you have to be chatting within the last 5 minutes, and it just randomly picks you guys, okay? So I'm not, again, going to continue to do these every single time. When I have swag to give away, I'll do so, okay? So let's do another one here. Israel Miller, you're a winner. So that's 3. Joaquin Perez, that's 4. Brian Milburn, 5. Jeep Jones 85, 6. I'll do 2 more. Sean Mack and Speeder Brad 95. You guys need to send me emails. I'm not going to reach out to you guys, okay? So you guys got 24 hours. If you aren't in the chat anymore, then if I don't get contact by 24 hours, then it is what it is, okay? So you guys send me an email and then we'll converse about what we're going to give away and stuff. I'm going to make it easy that way, okay? So just send me emails and I'll communicate with you guys. All right, let me get back into this. Actually, I want to show something else too. Okay, so I'm going to try something right now. Let's see if this works, okay? I want you guys to tell me in the chat what we have going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a screen capture right now. I'm going to transition to the screen capture. And I want you guys to see something. Okay, so you guys should be able, and this is another question that I'm answering right now. Okay, so this is YouTube. Okay, guys? This is my YouTube page, and I'm going to click on it right now. Can you guys see the screen share right now? Let me know if you guys can see the screen share. Let me know before I go any further. I don't want to be talking about too much stuff here. So let me know. Anybody, can you guys see the screen share yet? You should be able to see it. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So what I want you to do, if you guys go to any one of my YouTube videos, okay, actually don't even, let's go to my channel. So you guys are looking at my channel right now and you look right on here on my home screen, it says channels, right? If you guys click on channels, right up in the top, it has featured channels. Okay. I get this question all the time. What other YouTube channels I watch? Okay. These ones up in the top are the featured channels. Just because someone's not featured doesn't mean I don't watch their channel, okay? These are just the ones that I've taken the time to add to my featured list, okay? A lot of times on the end of my videos, I may say, check out my other content or the other channels. You have to watch till the end, and I'm going to show you something else with that too, okay? So down at the bottom also, it says subscriptions, Okay. And you guys can see all the channels that I'm subscribed to. Just because I'm subscribed to a channel doesn't mean that I recommend all their content. Okay. But I typically don't subscribe to a channel that I hate. So, all right, you guys will see some interesting stuff inside there. So look at that. Okay. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. The next thing I wanted to show you is any video that you guys see. Oh, you guys are getting some sneak peeks here too, because there's some videos that aren't released yet. Any of my videos. So let's say my HVACR new van video update. Okay. So I'm going to fast forward to the end of the video. This is why you guys got to watch to the end of the video. Okay. Right at the end of the video. If I didn't lie to you, well, I lied to you on that. Oh yeah. Right at the end of the video, you guys will see each time I try to rotate the different people that I recommend. So on this one, I recommended Zach's channel, Shop Talk. On this one, it's Rick's channel, Northwest Ohio. And then so when I'm referencing checking out the other channels that I recommend, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, guys. So I got a bunch of questions about that. Also, down in the video, there's show notes right here. It says HVACR videos. Okay. Show more. All right. Look there's links. A lot of times I throw links into the bottom of the videos. You guys have to look at the show notes. You can see this stuff on your phones too. You just have to learn how to navigate on your phone. Okay. You can see all this stuff. Social media links if you need to get a hold of me, Patreon channel, how to subscribe to my channel. Okay, guys. So just pay attention to that stuff. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this display capture. That's all that I wanted to show there. Okay. We should be back up to normal. I wanted to address that stuff real quick. All right, let me see what's going on in here. HVAC hackers in there too. You just got to see. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and address Rick's stuff too. Rick and I are internet friends. Okay, so we communicate back and forth. So Rick did have to take down all of his content. Okay, he basically just between him and the company, they had an agreement and he had to take his content down. Okay. That's all we can say about what Rick had to do. He's still continuing to publish content. He's just trying to figure out his format. He's right now working on different things. Rick is not going away. He's still going to be around. So continue to subscribe to his channel or be subscribed to his channel. He's still got great content coming. Okay. So Rick has not disappeared. And Rick, if you guys don't know, is Northwest Ohio HVAC. Okay, I recommend him on a lot of my videos and stuff. So, yeah, Superior. Last week it was feed. I made a mistake. I am human. I could probably get into it with you guys, but I don't want to confuse everybody. But basically, I put a link to the wrong channel with Rick's picture, and it was recommending some other dude, and then that other dude had like 2 subscribers, I guess, when I put the link up, and he had like 400 or 500 by the time, whatever, a bunch of people subscribed to his channel. My bad. Okay. Throw some stuff into the comments, guys. I don't want to get too confused and too far behind. Send me, or throw the questions into the chat. Okay, guys. Let's see what else we got. All right. There's a lot of good content out there, guys. So pay attention to that stuff. Okay. There's a lot of people much better than I that are talking about stuff. Let me see what else I had on my list here. Yeah, that's it. That's all I had on my list. So I just want to answer your guys' questions. And if you guys don't have too many more questions, then we'll start wrapping it up. But I'll go ahead and let me get on here. I know you guys are probably going to throw some more questions in there. So yeah, different Rick there. Rick W. Rick is Northwest Ohio. So Andrew Hicks. Yeah, that's a gray area, man. I mean, I'm the owner, so I can film. But if my guys were trying to film, it really depends, man, because I have to do a lot of stuff and even I slip. So what could be the issue with cold rails icing up? Well, let's talk about icing up. Okay. Icing up is a couple things. It's getting too cold. They've got frost building up. There could be airflow problems if it has a fan. There could be defrost problems if it has a defrost clock. Or let me also tell you that I don't care what manufacturer is out there. If it's a Delfield, if it's a Hvacr, not a Hvacr Blue, but any of the older ones that either had static rails or, like the old Hvacrs that had a fan motor in there, they can't leave pans in there at nighttime. Okay, most cold rails out there, they're set up to be turned off at nighttime and air defrost. So that's why they come with time clocks, or they have a switch that says rail power. So you're supposed to empty out the food out of the top, turn the rail switch off, or let the time clock naturally turn the box off and it defrosts all night. Okay, on the older Hvacrs, they were never meant to have food left in them overnight on the top sections. Now on the bottom sections, totally separate, runs on its own. So that's a big thing is that it just needs to be defrosted. All right, go down into here. See what else I missed. Have I used solder weld? Yes, I have, Jim. Brian Orr was cool enough to send me like a solder weld kit on behalf of Products by Pros, and then also, of course, solder weld. I have like the full aluminum kit. I have not had the opportunity to do it on any of the aluminum brazing yet or soldering, okay? But I have used their round rod, and I have used their 56%, and it works great. I really dig the solder weld canister that it came with. Like the canister alone is just a really cool feature. Another thing that I really like about the solder weld stuff, even though I haven't had an opportunity to use it on aluminum yet, is their little portable aluminum repair kit. It comes in like almost like a tiny miniature sized bag, like half the size of like a Vito MB bag. And it's packed full of all the things you would need to do an aluminum repair. Comes with a wire brush, comes with the flux, comes with the brazing rod or the soldering rod. So I really dig the solder weld products, and the hot block is cool too. But I personally haven't been able to use the aluminum stuff as of yet, but I do have it on my truck for emergencies. But the round rod 15% is badass. It's a trip to use the round rod. And if you guys haven't used it yet, so if you can picture Silphos, right? We use, at my company, we use 15% Silphos. Okay. That's what we braze with on almost everything. So if you buy like the Harris Silphos, it's a flat rod. Okay. But the solder weld stuff is round. So you basically, one stick lasts a lot longer. It's just kind of cool too. So, but yes, I have used the solder weld stuff. So Yusuf, you asked, okay, so wait. Okay, so yeah, head pressure valves. Yeah, I'll work on that. I'll do that right now. And Yusuf, that kind of explains what you asked too. You guys are asking about head pressure valves. So, okay, old school mentality. I'm going to give you the basic thoughts. There's some more to this, but I'm going to just break it down a little bit. Okay. So an expansion valve works properly when you have a certain amount of pressure drop across the expansion valve. Okay. The old school rule of thumb was about 100 PSI pressure drop on an expansion valve. I'm going to get to the head pressure control valves here in a second. Okay. What I mean by pressure drop is a pressure difference from one side of the valve to the other. Okay. So in order to push that refrigerant through the expansion valve, and I'm giving you guys a nutshell explanation here. In order to push that refrigerant through the expansion valve, we have to have higher pressure on one side, lower pressure on the other, right? That's what the expansion valve is doing. A head pressure control valve, or a headmaster, is actually a trade name, okay? But a head pressure control valve essentially meters the amount of refrigerant coming out of the valve. Sometimes it stops it. Sometimes it opens and lets a little bit out. Okay. But it basically modulates and opens and closes based off of the pressure on one side of the valve. Okay. And it allows the refrigerant to back up in the condenser, simulating a warm day. Okay. So think about taking a big piece of cardboard and putting it across the condenser. What's going to happen to your head pressure? Your head pressure is going to go up, right? Okay. So a head pressure control valve basically shuts off the refrigerant flow, but you don't want to think of it as an on-off, because it does modulate. Okay. It opens and closes based off of the pressure in the system. All right. But it essentially shuts off the flow of refrigerant and allows the refrigerant to start stacking up in the condenser. Okay. And it brings the head pressure in the system up. By bringing the head pressure up, okay, it also, at the same time, while it's backing up that refrigerant, it does allow refrigerant flow directly from the discharge line of the compressor into the receiver of the system. Okay. Now, here comes the problem. If we have high pressure, high temperature, superheated vapor coming out of the compressor, going directly into the receiver goes down to the expansion valve, right? We would have a problem, because your expansion valve has to operate with 100% liquid going to it, right? We call that the liquid seal. So the expansion valve has to have a liquid seal going down to it. Well, what we have to do is we have to have what we call the winter charge, an amount of refrigerant that always sits in that receiver awaiting the moment that headmaster starts to bypass, okay? So we've got, let's just say, half of the receiver or a third of the receiver always has a certain amount of liquid refrigerant in it, okay? Again, I know a lot of this is visuals and maybe I need to do a better episode on this. But the receiver also has a dip tube in it that the refrigerant leaving the receiver is pulled from the bottom of the receiver, kind of like the dip tube that you might be able to picture in an accumulator, okay? But the reverse, all right? So the receiver has a dip tube, and that dip tube pulls from the bottom of the receiver. So we can take that high temperature, high pressure, superheated vapor directly from the compressor and dump it on top of that liquid receiver, and it's going to push that liquid refrigerant down to the expansion valve, maintaining a solid column of liquid going down to the expansion valve. But that high temperature, high pressure, superheated vapor coming out of the compressor is going to be at a much higher pressure, okay, than the refrigerant was before, all right? And the purpose of a headmaster is to maintain that pressure drop across the expansion valve, like I said, right? Because the heat transfer from the air outside, if we weren't bypassing the condenser, all right, the heat transfer is very low because the outdoor ambient is too low, all right? And again, hopefully that explains a little bit. I'm sure I could have gone about that a little bit better, but that should give you the gist of it, okay? So a head pressure control valve raises the head pressure in the system, okay, and allows, at the same time, because you have extra winter charge already stored in the system, all right, it allows liquid refrigerant to still make it down to the expansion valve, but it essentially does the same thing as blocking off the condenser with a piece of cardboard, okay? Just brings the head pressure up, all right? So hopefully that makes sense to you. If you want some more clarification, I would suggest you guys Google Sporlan document 90-30-1, okay? The Sporlan 90-30-1 explains a headmaster's operation. You can also look up the Sporlan document 90-30, and then there's another one too, somewhere in there. If you search around the Sporlan website, there's a couple of them. If you guys want more information about the headmaster, I do have a couple videos where I explain how a headmaster works. What I would suggest you guys do is send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com, and I can answer those for you, okay? So hopefully that helps you guys out. Makes sense for you? All right. Let me go up into here. Yes, you do have to know your receiver capacity, Ryan. Ryan is correct. Israel Miller, I would not be the person to explain a ERV, okay? I am not very smart when it comes to ERVs, so there's probably much better people than I that could explain the operation of an ERV. Zach, thanks so much, bud. Appreciate it. Appreciate hanging out in here, okay? Have a nice night. Okay. Guys, if anybody in here is willing to help anybody out with these questions, do so. Help each other out. If, I don't know if you guys are willing to share emails, if anybody knows, but anybody that has questions for me, go ahead. Chris, could you please just visit my channel and let us know about your opinion? Joel, yeah, do me a favor though, Joel, and send me an email to remind me, okay? Because I'll forget. So send me an email and I'll check it out, okay? Zach, I didn't even ask him to be a moderator. I just clicked on it and said he's moderator. So I didn't mean to push that on him. I got to apologize to him for that. Yusuf, I hope that makes sense to you, dude. Okay. So I've got some videos, where, oh shoot, there's a video that I made, and here, I will show you guys right now, and you guys I'll look for it while I'm talking, and then I'll show it to you. Yeah, it's an ERV is a recovery wheel, essentially. Okay, so a lot of times they have like a medium that absorbs, it tries to recover heat before it's discharged, or cooling. There's different things, but there's much better people that can do that. Ryan, if you want to answer questions, go for it, man. Yeah, we should like set something up where. Well, I guess Brian Orr already has something set up where people can answer questions on behalf of him and stuff like that. But we should do that. We should set up like guys that are willing to help other people out and make like email addresses for people and stuff. I don't know. That's probably more work than I need to do. But okay, so this person says on Hvacr reach-ins, you had 2 solenoid valves. Can you explain that? Is it for pump down? How does it work with 2 evapes? Yeah, so let's just take Hvacr out of the picture. let's just look at a region. Okay, a solenoid, if you have two solenoid valves, you're more than likely just trying to isolate two separate circuits in the system. So let's say we're talking about an older Hvacr region, not a new one with the blue system, but an older one, okay, where we have a pan chiller and then you have a base section. You're going to have two temperature controllers and two solenoid valves. So when one temperature controller shuts off, it shuts off the solenoid valve for that section and stops the refrigerant flow, stops the cooling. So that way we don't make it too cold, okay? So that way the other system, okay, we consider it two systems, or the other circuit can continue to operate. So there's a possibility that the cold rail gets to the 23 degrees on the older Hvacrs that it's set for, but the bottom section's still at 39. And we have it set for 37. So it's going to continue to run while the other system's not. So solenoid valves in a pump down circuit on a multiplex system, you could call them that, okay? They're just separating each evaporator so that way, you know, they can operate independently is what they're doing. So, okay. Keep on going down into here. Okay. Never tried S-Mens. Hey, Rick, how you doing, bud? You guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to Rick's channel right here, Northwest Ohio HVAC videos. Got good stuff on there. So, all right. Okay, let me go into here and see what else I'm missing up here. Okay. Alex Whedon. I'm not a super expert with the train control system. I won't even call myself an expert, okay? There's much better people than I. I understand basic troubleshooting skills on the train stuff, but I am in no way worthy of commenting on the, I'm assuming you're talking about the tracer system because you said tracker controller. I don't know if the tracker controller is different than the tracer system, but I don't know that much about train stuff, okay? I know how to work on them and push buttons, but I can't educate on them, so I would not be the person. Okay, cool. Let me see what else I'm missing here. Let's see, guys. We're probably going to start wrapping this up, so if you guys got any more questions, throw it down into the bottom, see if I'm missing anything. I'm just kind of scrolling up in here. Okay, Brian Cobes. Okay. Brian says that this guy has videos where he heats up the receiver with a torch or whatever, and it shows you how much liquid is in the receiver. Okay, there is truth to that statement, all right? And there is some, but there's some stuff that's not true about that statement. First off, yes, I do have a redneck method of checking refrigerant charge in a system. Let me explain this. And this is the winter charge on a refrigeration system with a headmaster. Okay, yes. On a refrigeration system, let me ask you guys a question, okay? What is the maximum amount of refrigerant you can put in the system? Okay, the maximum amount of refrigerant you can put in a system that has a receiver on it is 80%. When it's pumped down, that receiver can only be 80% full, okay? So that means that the refrigerant is backed up into the condenser and it's starting to build up in the receiver and it can't go past the 80% mark, okay? So with that in mind, if you cannot use the Sporlan 90-30-1 method to calculate the proper flooded winter charge, there is a method where you would just simply put the maximum amount of refrigerant in the system. Now, I do not suggest you guys do this without talking to your service managers or your supervisors, okay? Because you could be working on a giant supermarket system that could take an extra 200 pounds of gas to fill up the system all the way, all right? But if you're working on a small system, you know, to put the maximum amount of refrigerant, there might be a little excess. And the reason why I'm saying this is a properly operating system, depending on how it was designed, even with the winter charge, when it's pumped down, the receiver might only be halfway full. Okay, but my method is that if I don't have the time or the ability to do the proper method, which is the Sporlan 90-30-1 to verify the proper refrigerant charge in the system, then what I will do is put the maximum amount of refrigerant in that system. So what I would do is I would front seat the King valve on the receiver, let the system pump down. All the refrigerant would stop coming out of the receiver and it would just back up in the receiver. Then I would fill that system up until I got to that receiver to the 80% mark while it's pumped down, okay? Again, you cannot just do this, okay? You have to understand how a refrigeration system works and always be careful because you do not ever want to overcharge a receiver. There's other people saying how to do this, okay? I'm not going to tell you guys what to use, but there is people in this chat telling you how to do it, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to take a heat-producing device while it's pumped down, and you're going to pass that heat producing device up and down the receiver. And then once you do about 2 or 3 passes, you're going to pull it off, and you're going to run your fingers, the back of your fingers, starting from the bottom of the receiver, moving the way up. Okay. And you're going to feel, when you immediately feel the super high temperature, that is the liquid level in the system. So you start at the bottom, it'll feel nice and cool. And then all of a sudden it gets red hot. That's the liquid level in the system. Okay. So there's a lot of things that you can do wrong when you do that. So that's why I'm not going to tell you guys what to do, but you have to take a heat producing device and pass it up and down while it's pumped down. Now, I also will warn you that you never want to take a device that gets hotter than the high temperature pressure relief on the receiver. Most or all receivers are going to have a high temperature pressure relief. A lot of times it's not a resettable pressure relief, so you never ever want that to blow. We might call it a soft plug, or there might be a mechanical fitting on the top of there, okay? And essentially it has a very small piece of solder in it, and that solder usually has a temperature of about 430 degrees or something like that. And if that ever gets above 430 degrees, that little soft plug is going to melt, and it's going to blow all the refrigerant out of the system. So whatever heat producing device you guys are going to use, you have to make sure that it does not get above that temperature. And you also don't want to pass your heat producing device over that soft plug or that pressure relief valve. Okay. So you got to know that. So I caution people to be very careful when checking winter charge with with that method. Okay. You really need to know what you're doing, but I use a method. Yeah. And I do that. That's what I do to put if I can't do the Sporlan 90-30-1. So, all right. Yeah, I made a mistake. So that was not Rick. I plugged someone else's channel and apparently got a crap ton of subscribers because of it. So yeah, Brian Cobes, big vertical receivers in grocery stores. So, and what I'm saying is sometimes, the difference in the calculated flooded winter charge and the maximum amount of refrigerant might be some crazy amount of refrigerant. So adding that extra refrigerant might be way too much of a cost. So you want to be cautious about that. Okay. So you always want to lean on the Sporlan 90-30-1 method, and that's going to calculate the flooded charge. Okay. So I always suggest you guys follow that method as much as possible. So, yeah, I would highly suggest you don't use a rosebud tip to heat up the receiver. Yeah. That would be very dangerous. So you don't want that. So, all right. Okay, and these, I think that's sight glass. Yeah, a reefer tech mark. A sight glass would be bitching. If on the smaller systems, we don't have any method. So I really dug, and I guess it's not practical, but on the old Vote ice machines, they had a giant sight glass similar. Hold on. Similar to the sight glass on a dial-a-charge. And you could actually see the liquid level in the system as it pumped down. So this is an old dial-a-charge that has a glass sight glass on it. And on the old Vote ice machines, they had one of these on their receivers, so you could always see the liquid level in the receiver while it was pumped down or while it was operating. And I always thought that was really cool. But something like this glass sight glass is a problem because we would break it out in the field for sure. But yes, that would make our job so much easier if we can just visualize the amount of refrigerant in the system. That would make things so much easier. Okay. Guys, I am going to wrap this up. I really appreciate you guys coming in here. It is it's my pleasure to do these. I really like to be able to hear myself talk. So I'm a narcissist. Okay. But no, all joking aside, I appreciate your guys' feedback on the videos and stuff. Any questions, my email has been popping up all along here. Send me an email, and we'll go from there. Okay. I will catch you guys on the flip side.